Hey everybody, Allison Gardner here, and I'm very excited to be with you and share with you sort of an epiphany that I had last night. So I was talking with a friend, and she was talking about how different situations would come up in her life, and she would make decisions based on the different people that she valued in her life and sort of their version of the voice in her head. And we had a really awesome conversation, and I loved our chat because it helped me sort of think about the kinds of voices that are in my head and the kinds of things that I listen to. Now you might be going, she hears voices. You do too. We all have we have the voices of people we respect. We have the voices of people that we don't respect but made a very big impression on us. We also have voices from our past and previous self. And as I was talking with her, and we were kind of sharing about the different experiences that we had, I thought about the voices in my head from my previous self. That there is a voice from my 10-year-old self who absolutely loves the holidays and loves my birthday and loves getting stuff. And there's a voice of my 15-year-old self in my head that struggles with her weight and is afraid she'll never fit in, and loves her voice but is afraid that the world doesn't. There's a 21-year-old self who feels like you do what's right and you always face disappointment. There's a intrepid 23-year-old self that knows that if you just keep the commandments good enough, life will be fine. And there's a 25 and 26 and 27-year-old self who learned what heartbreak was for the first time. And all of these different voices, and these are just my voices, all affect what I think, what I feel, and how I engage with people. And then you add in my mom and my dad's voices and my grandparents' voices and the neighbor down the street voices and the kid who called me mean names in 6th grade voices, and you mix in all of this stuff, and that can be way confusing. I want you to close your eyes for just a minute and imagine you are listening to the Lord of the Rings commentary. You can choose also any other movie that you would love to see the commentary on. I just choose Lord of the Rings commentary because it's hilarious and there's lots of voices in it. So I've watched the Two Towers commentary. So what you do is you're watching the movie, and then you have actors or directors who took part in it, and they're telling stories about what's going on, or their perspective, or how many takes it took, or like what they were hoping to accomplish with the scene. And so you have all of these voices, and so not only are you watching the movie and you're watching for your favorite lines and your favorite scenes and lead ups and things, you're also hearing all of these other voices that all bring stuff to the table. And that is so much like our life. And that is so much what we experience. And so as you go throughout your next day, I would invite you to think about what kinds of voices want a say in your life. And do you want them to have a say in your life? Do you want them to be the ones running the commentary and running how you interact with people? Here's an example. Two examples. So I brought up my 10-year-old self. This 10-year-old self has absolutely always loved Christmas. I always loved turning all the lights and just sitting on my couch and looking at the glowing Christmas tree and the presents and just the magic of Christmas. That was my favorite thing. And whenever I think of Christmas and we get into December, that's still what I think of. But I was 10. I had lots of family members I still have lots of family members who love me, by the way. That hasn't changed. But they showed their love through gifts because that's how I understood love. And so there was lots of people to give me gifts, and there was lots of ways for Christmas to be magical. I am now no longer 10 years old, and I am in a different stage of life, and people express their love differently. And so is it healthy for me to long for my 10-year-old self and to let my 10-year-old self have too much of a voice at Christmas? Probably not. And for you, what kinds of expectations do those voices establish in your mind for Christmas? Are those healthy expectations? Are those helpful expectations? And are they helping you find joy in this season? Second example. So for as long as I can remember, I've always felt like if you lose stuff, you're irresponsible. that you're not responsible, you don't care well enough for your stuff. And so whenever I lose something, all of those voices telling me that I need to be responsible, all of those fears come rushing up, telling me what an awful person I am. One, that's just not very nice to myself, so that's not good. But two, it sets me up poorly in relationships. So by listening to all of those old voices, I react the same way that I did then. And that's with fear, and that's with hiding, that's with lack of trust. So about a month ago, I had the mini library card that goes on your keychain in my pocket because I had gone to the library and I wanted to hold on to it in case I wanted to go back to the library. And it was just in my coat pocket, and one day, I guess it fell out. It was just gone, and it wasn't in my pocket anymore. And I retraced my steps, and I looked everywhere, and I couldn't find it. And all that I could think of were those voices in my head telling me how awful of a person I was and how irresponsible I was, and that I didn't care about my stuff. And that I wasn't worthy because I wasn't worth it because I kept losing my stuff. And the proverbial, you'd lose your head if it wasn't attached, kind of. All of those voices came rushing up into my head. And so I didn't tell my husband that I lost the library card. Because it would be such a hassle. We'd have to get a new card and a new number, and we'd have to reset everything on the internet. And wow, I just made it really overwhelming. And I just kept praying that it would show up, that somehow it would come back up into our life. And so I just prayed, and I kept it to myself, figuring that I wouldn't have to broach that subject until it actually came up when we wanted to go to the library. And even then we could get around it because he had a driver's license, and we could just show them the driver's license and we check stuff out. So I just hid it from him. And last week he came to me and he said, "Did you know that you'd lost the library card? Did you know it was missing?" That's what he asked. He said, "Did you know that the library card was missing?" And I was like, "Yes." And he said, "I heard from the library today, and they said they have the card, but we have to go pick it up." And I was like, "Oh yes, it was found." But he looked at me and he said, "Allison, why didn't you tell me it was gone?" Because for him, that means it has nothing to do with me. It makes him feel like I don't trust him. And so we had a really good conversation about how I'm not irresponsible, that I am a responsible person, and that I do matter, and that it's just a human thing that happened and it's fine. And so I would ask you this question. Well, first I need to say, so that helped us. I apologized, and we talked through it, and we worked through it, and it was a beautiful gift to hear him tell me that I am responsible and that he trusts me. And that he would really love it if I shared stuff with him. And so I would invite you to think about, what is a time in your life when you let old voices conquer the opportunity to do new things, to establish greater trust, to strengthen a relationship, because of old commentary running through your head and old voices telling you that you're awful, or you can't say that, or you shouldn't share that. And I would invite you to carefully think about who you want to be on the commentary of your life. You're the person living your life. You're the person who gets to make new choices. So doesn't it make sense that you want to be the one that runs that commentary, and you are the one that explains why you made the creative decision that you made, and that you wanted to try this fearless thing, and you wanted to go out and embrace new life? There is so much power when we choose that our voice and the decisions we want to make today can be different than what was. And you can always still pay attention to those voices that you value and care about, but it's time to start deciding whether you're going to listen to the negative ones, the old ones, and the ones that don't know where you're coming from now. You don't have to listen to old voices. You get to choose to create your new life and be the one in the director's chair of the choices you make and how it turns out. And I'm very excited to see you on this journey. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.